The transmission came through at exactly 3 in the morning Galactic Standard Time. Ambassador Kira Volkov watched the holographic message play out before her tired eyes. The Galactic Republic Senate had voted. After 200 years of alliance, after countless treaties and promises of mutual defense, the Republic had decided to abandon the colony world of Vareth Prime to its fate. The Kethrani Hive fleets were coming. Everyone knew it. The insectoid species had consumed 17 worlds in the past decade alone. Their swarms numbered in the billions, their bioships capable of stripping a planet bare within weeks. And now they had set their countless eyes on Vareth Prime, a small agricultural world on the edge of civilized space, home to 3 million souls from a dozen different species. Kira read the official statement again. The words were cold and clinical. The Republic regretted to inform its valued allies that military resources could not be spared for the defense of outlying territories. Strategic concerns required the consolidation of fleet assets in core systems. The Republic expressed its deepest sympathies to the inhabitants of Vareth Prime and encouraged immediate evacuation procedures. There were no evacuation ships coming. Kira knew that. The Republic knew that too. They simply did not care enough to say it plainly. She closed the transmission and stood at her window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of people were about to die. Farmers and merchants and children who had done nothing wrong except live on a world that the Republic deemed expendable. 3 days later, Kira stood before the Imperial Council on Earth. The chamber was massive, built from dark stone and ancient wood. Flags from 100 human nations hung from the ceiling. The Terran Empire was young by galactic standards, barely 5 centuries old. It had joined the greater community of species only recently, and many still considered humans to be primitive newcomers. Barbarians who had barely mastered faster than light travel. The council listened as she presented her case. She showed them the intelligence reports about the Kethrani fleet. She explained the Republic's decision to withdraw support. She described the people of Vareth Prime, their farms and cities and schools. She did not beg. Humans did not respond well to begging. She simply laid out the facts and waited. Emperor Marcus Chun sat at the head of the long table. He was an old man now, his hair white and his face lined with decades of difficult decisions. But his eyes were sharp, and they studied Kira with intense focus. The room fell silent when he spoke. His voice was calm and measured. He asked about the Kethrani numbers. He asked about the Republic's official position. He asked about the political consequences of human intervention in a conflict that the galactic community had chosen to ignore. Kira answered every question honestly. The Kethrani fleet was massive. The Republic had made its choice clear. Any human involvement would be seen as interference in matters beyond their territory. Other species would view it as aggression. Trade agreements might suffer. Diplomatic relations could be damaged. The Emperor nodded slowly. Then he asked one final question. He asked what would happen to the people of Vareth Prime if no one came to help them. Kira did not need to answer. Everyone in that room already knew. Marcus Chun stood from his chair. He looked around at his advisors, his generals, his diplomats. They all watched him with the same expression. Uncertainty mixed with something else. Something that looked very much like hope. The Emperor spoke clearly so that everyone could hear. He said that the Terran Empire had not achieved its place among the stars by abandoning the innocent to die. He said that human history was filled with darkness, with wars and cruelty and failures too numerous to count. But it was also filled with moments when ordinary people chose to stand against evil, even when the cost was high, even when victory seemed impossible. He said that he would not order any soldier to fight. This mission would be voluntary only, but he himself would authorize the deployment of the Imperial Second Fleet to Vareth Prime. Any officer or crew member who wished to remain behind would face no punishment and no shame. The chamber erupted into chaos. Advisors shouted about the diplomatic consequences. Economists warned about trade disruptions. Military strategists pointed out that the Second Fleet was one of the Empire's most valuable assets. To risk it on behalf of aliens who had never done anything for humanity was madness. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo stood and waited for silence. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray temples. She had commanded the Second Fleet for 15 years. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. She said that she had already spoken with her captains. Every single one of them had volunteered. Their crews were preparing for departure at that very moment. She said that her people had not joined the Imperial Navy to hide behind safe borders while innocents died. She said that if the Republic would not defend Vareth Prime, then the humans would do it themselves. The fleet launched within 48 hours. 72 warships, the pride of the Terran Empire, burning through space toward a world that did not belong to them. Their crews knew the risks. They understood that they might not come home. But they went anyway. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive upstarts watched in confusion as the Imperial fleet raced towards certain destruction. The Kethrani had never been defeated in open battle. Their numbers were simply too great. To challenge them was suicide. The Republic Senate issued a formal statement condemning human aggression and warning of serious diplomatic consequences. They accused the Emperor of reckless warmongering. They demanded that the fleet turn back immediately. Marcus Chen responded with a single sentence. He said that the Terran Empire did not take orders from cowards. On Vareth Prime, the inhabitants watched the skies with terror. They had seen the Republic's message. They knew that help was not coming. Families gathered together to spend their final days. Some prayed to gods they had long ignored. Others simply held their loved ones close and waited for the end. Then the human ships appeared. Governor Tellus was an elderly Vorthan, a species of tall reptilian beings known for their calm logic. He had served Vareth Prime for 30 years. In all that time, he had never seen anything like the sight that filled his viewscreen. The Imperial Second Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Battleships and cruisers and destroyers, their hulls gleaming with armor plating, their weapons arrays powering up with deadly purpose. They took up defensive positions around the planet without hesitation, without asking for permission, without demanding payment. Admiral Okonkwo appeared on the communication screen. Her expression was determined but kind. She informed Governor Tellus that the Terran Empire had come to help. She asked for his cooperation in coordinating civilian defenses. She promised that no Kethrani ship would reach the surface while a single human vessel remained operational. The governor could not find words. His translator device hummed uselessly for several seconds before he managed to ask why. Why would humans risk everything for strangers? Why would they defy the Republic and make enemies of half the galaxy? What did they hope to gain? Admiral Okonkwo smiled slightly. She said that humans did not help others because they expected something in return. She said that they helped because it was right. She said that if she had to explain that to an alien species, then perhaps the galaxy needed humans more than anyone realized. The Kethrani arrived 3 days later. Their bioships filled the darkness of space like a plague of locusts. Millions of warriors packed into living vessels that pulsed with alien hunger. They came expecting easy prey. They found something else entirely. The battle lasted 9 hours. Human ships burned and broke apart. Thousands of sailors died in the cold vacuum. But they held the line. They fought with a fury that the Kethrani had never encountered. Every time the aliens pushed forward, the humans pushed back harder. Every time a ship fell, another took its place. Admiral Okonkwo commanded from the bridge of her flagship, the INV Defiance. Damage reports flooded in from across the fleet. Casualties mounted with terrible speed. But she never wavered. She directed her forces with surgical precision, exploiting every weakness in the enemy formation. When the Kethrani Queen ship finally came within range, Okonkwo ordered all remaining vessels to concentrate fire. The alien command vessel was enormous, a living mountain of chitin and rage. It had never been damaged in combat. Its hive mind believed it to be invincible. The humans taught it otherwise. 37 ships fired simultaneously. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds and nuclear warheads slammed into the queen ship with devastating force. The creature screamed across every frequency as its body tore apart. When it died, the hive mind shattered. The remaining Kethrani forces fell into chaos, their coordination broken, their will to fight destroyed. The survivors fled into the darkness. They did not return. When the battle ended, only 29 human ships remained operational. Nearly half the fleet had been destroyed. Over 12,000 sailors had given their lives. But Vareth Prime still stood. 3 million people looked up at the stars and wept with gratitude. Governor Talus traveled to Admiral Okonkwo's ship to offer his personal thanks. He found her sitting alone in her ready room, reviewing the casualty lists. Her eyes were red from tears she had tried to hide. She had known many of the dead personally. They had served under her for years. The governor asked if she regretted the decision to come. The admiral looked at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head. She said that every sailor who died had known the risks. They had volunteered anyway. They had chosen to place the lives of strangers above their own safety. That was what it meant to be human. The news of the victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had mocked humanity now watched with new eyes. They saw people who fought not for territory or resources or power, but simply because innocent lives needed protecting. They saw warriors who wept for their fallen comrades, but never regretted their sacrifice. The Republic Senate fell silent. Their condemnations died on their tongues. They had called humans primitive, reckless, foolish. But it was human ships that had stood against the darkness. It was human blood that had been spilled to save those the Republic had abandoned. In the years that followed, everything changed. Species that had ignored humanity began sending ambassadors. Trade agreements multiplied. Military alliances formed. The Terran Empire grew in influence and respect, not because they had conquered anyone, but because they had proven something that the galaxy had forgotten. Some things were worth fighting for. Some principles could not be compromised. Some people would always stand up for the defenseless, no matter the cost. The Republic had withdrawn its support, and the Imperial fleet had provided its own. That choice defined humanity more clearly than any treaty or proclamation ever could. It showed the universe exactly what kind of species had joined the galactic community. A species that refused to look away from suffering. A species that answered calls for help when no one else would. A species that measured its worth not in wealth or power, but in the lives it chose to protect. The stars watched in silence, and somewhere in the darkness, other threatened worlds began to hope. Because now they knew that humanity was out there, and humans did not abandon those in need.